friends, it's Allison. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking all about the new shader brushes from Waffle Flower Crafts. They also have an amazing new release for this month of November. It's all about books and cats. So if you love either or both of those, you are going to love this release. So we are going to start off, well, first with that middle card, but mainly with these new shader brushes. So this is the new Shader Brush Plus collection. And the 0 Plus and 1 Plus brushes were released last month. These have a slanted round tip. And new for this month are the Shader 2 Plus and Shader 3 Plus brushes. These have flat tips. And also for this month, they have released a new sampler pack of the new Brush Plus. So there's one of each of the new sizes. So these are the round tip ones. And you can see how they're slanted. So you may wonder how these differ from the original ones that were released, I think maybe last year. So these new Plus versions are designed to apply like a denser layer of ink. So you can just achieve faster results with these. So those are the flat tip, yeah. And you'll see how the flat tip differs from the round tip. All right, so we are going to test these brushes with some stenciling. And we are starting with this new Pop-Up Books panel die. Now, if you've watched some of my videos before, you've seen a lot of the pop-up dies from Waffle Flower. They just keep coming out with new ones all the time, and they're so much fun. I am attaching my panel to my 6x6 grip mat, and now I'm going to use this new stencil set, the two-tone books stencil. So this was obviously designed to be used with this die. And again, just like so many of the other sets from Waffle Flower. And you'll see my panel and my stencil both stick to my grip mat. Now I've also pulled out one of the carrier sheets for one of my grip mats. I don't know which carrier sheet this is. Any of them will work. I'm just using this instead of tape to mask off some of the books so that I can color each of these a separate color. Now I am using my Distress Oxides, and I have my regular Waffle Flower blending brushes out. Remember, the new brushes that are out are shader brushes. They're not necessarily blending brushes. So right now I'm just trying to get a fast, even application of ink, and I just decided to grab my regular blending brushes. And for stencils like this, if you want to, use different colors, then you can either use smaller brushes, or you can use tape, or you can use what I'm using here, which is just a carrier sheet to kind of, mask off the areas that I need to. So you can see I'm kind of using rainbow colors. Well, with the addition of lots of other colors, but I'm kind of going in rainbow order. Now here's the second stencil in the set, and you can see that the area that gets stenciled with this one is much smaller and thinner. So I am going to try out some of these new brushes. So I'm starting off with the 0 Plus, and you can see the way the stencil is, there's an area that could lift up if you're not careful. So you see I'm kind of holding it down. And again, these brushes came out last month. And these can get into really small areas. So that's the benefit of these brushes over the huge blending, well, it's not huge, but comparatively speaking, the huge blending brush that I had just used to put the first layer of color onto the books. So now you'll see I'm coming in, and these brushes are laying, a denser color down, even though they're the same colors. And by the way, the books I used Distress Oxides. I'm coming in with Distress inks of the same color, but if you're familiar with Distress ink, Distress inks are, they're just a more vibrant version of Distress Oxides. So in some cases, I'm just using the same color. Like here, I'm using picked raspberry, just like I did with the Oxide. But like for this orange one, I'm coming in with the same color of Distress ink. And I decided I'm going to come in with more of an orange color of Distress ink just to get the color that I want. And I actually do that later. But I'm sitting here blabbering on about inks, and, I'm just playing with these brushes. And so now you see I've pulled a different brush. This is the Shader Brush 3 Plus, and this is putting the ink on quite a bit faster because obviously it's a bigger brush. And I'm still able to stay within, like, I don't need to use tape to mask off the other books. I'm still able to, stay within the lines and not worry about getting it where I don't want it. So there is what we have so far, but I'm going to come back in. I'm still not done with these books. I'm coming in with the first stencil, and now I'm coming in with the Shader Brush 2 Plus. If I have to keep saying shader brush all throughout this video, I'm going to keep messing it up. But you'll see now I'm using a little flicking motion. I'm coming in from the middle of the book, and I'm flicking out just to create a shadow. And there I should have dabbed off a little bit of the ink, so I got a little bit of a darker look than I wanted. But I'm using a flicking motion with this small kind of slanted wide brush, and it's just shading the middle of the book, and I think it gives a great look. So now I'm going to do that for all, and what I started doing was just taking that little slanted brush, and it's thin, right, because it's a wide tip. And I run it down the middle of the book to create that dark line down the middle. And then I'll start flicking out to the sides. And so once I kind of have my method, it's just a matter of going through the colors. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is Waffle Flower is having a huge warehouse moving sale right now. It just started. And there are tons of items that are 40% off. I think what's going to happen is when you go to the sale page, you just add these items to your cart. And once you go to your cart, it will reflect the sale price. But, I mean, it has items, even recent items. So definitely go check it out. 40% off is a great deal. It's probably going to, be on sale while supplies last. So I will have a link to that sale, but yeah, go get yourself some goodies. All right, you can see I'm almost done. Now what I'm doing is I'm darkening up on each of these books, that center line, and I'm just, darkening up this shading. And I'm really loving these new brushes. They really help you do things that you cannot do with your typical blending brush. Like, I would not be able to come in here with that big brush that I used before and make these fine lines and achieve this. So they were just really fun to play with, and I haven't even scratched the surface of what these brushes can do. So now I have another panel of white cardstock, and I'm using the Shader Brush 1 Plus, and I'm just, it's not pretty. I'm just getting color into these book areas. I'm using the same colors as I did on the main panel. And the reason I'm doing this is I want this to go in back of my panel. So on the left, you'll see the books, they pop up, they lift. So when they're lifted like they are, I want you to see the same color underneath. Do you need to do that? No, I just thought it would be cool. So I'm using these 1+ brushes just to get my color in there. And I was able to do that again without using tape and worrying about getting my colors mixed in with the other books. So now I can glue that main panel onto this bottom panel. And obviously I'm not putting glue on the back of the book, so I would just put glue everywhere else on the back panel. And now it's just a matter of lining these up. And now you can see how that looks from the side. You know, it looks like you just see the same color underneath, and I think it really completes that card. All right, so now we have this new Subsentiments die cut. This is the story die cut, and they have so many of these on the Waffle Flower website for so many different occasions. So I'm going to pick out 2 sets of sentiments because you'll see I have a second card to share with you. And you just pop them out and they're ready to go. The only thing I do is I run a black marker around the edges when I put these on cards because it is white core paper. So I'm going to pop these up on some foam tape, and you'll see I've already done that now. And now I can just add my final details to this card, which are some enamel dots. And I have 2 sets of enamel dots. They look very similar, but they are slightly different colors, and they have more colors on the Waffle Flower website. So here is my finished card, and I just think it's adorable, and I love these books, and it's just another great pop-up die. All right, I have made a second card with this pop-up die. While I was making the first card, I got the idea for this one. So I colored most of my books with this fog ink from Simon Says Stamp, and then, you know, I used the Kitsch Flamingo for that one little book. All right, now I have these tiny little hearts. I've just had these in my stash. I don't know what set these come from, but I'm going to do something that you normally don't think you could do with a tiny little die cut like this. I'm going to shade it, and I'm going to use one of these new brushes. So these are the shader brush, I think 2+. And, you know, I'm just dabbing this ink onto the very side of this heart. And I'm going to try to zoom in or pull it close to the camera so you can see. Now, you would never be able to take a normal blending brush and get shading on the side of a tiny die cut like this. Now, the other thing that's helping me do this is I have all these hearts sitting on my grip mat. This is my smallest grip mat. This is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch tall grip mat. And you can see it even holds my ink cube, so it's really convenient. But it's holding these little tiny hearts. And again, I can take this little, this is the wide tipped, again, 2+ version of these brushes. And I just think it's great that you can achieve shading on something so small. So what I did do for the final card, you'll see I added more shading in the center of the books. I got a little carried away. I think I used the wrong color gray ink. So anyway, I think it's a cute card. Speaking of cute, I said this release had cats and books. So let's move on to one of the cute products. This is the Paws Up Die. And it is so cute. So I've cut a couple of these paws out with gray ink. And I had this Paw Print Stencil Duo panel that I created off camera. I just used 2 shades of blue ink. And I did use some of the new brushes to do that. So I have these paws that I cut out from, I think it's fog gray cardstock. And now I'm using those big 3+ brushes. And I'm using a slightly darker gray ink. And I'm just flicking this from the sides of these paws or arms into the middle. And I'm even going to come in between the toes or paws, whatever, and I'm going to kind of flick downwards. And I'm going to zoom in a second and you'll see what that's doing. It's really creating dimension that makes, it just kind of gives us the toes or whatever you want to call them. It makes it look like they're separated. Like the shading just, I don't know. I thought it looked pretty cool. Now, of course, now I'm going to put something on top of that and you're not going to see it, but you and I both know it's there. And really, I'm just playing here. I wanted to see how these brushes would do with die cuts. And obviously, shading is really handy when you're working with die cuts, especially, think about florals and what you could do with floral die cuts and leaves. I think you can achieve so much blending and shading that you couldn't achieve before with these brushes. And by the way, these are cat paws, right? No, these are not cat paws. I have 2 dogs and I am highly allergic to cats. So this card idea, and you'll see I'm coming in with some darker ink, and you see as I'm flicking towards the center, it's really starting to look more like fur. It's really giving it this fun texture. And again, I was just playing around, having fun with this card, but look at that. Isn't that cool? All right. Going back to my cat allergies. I'm really highly allergic to cats. It's really sad. But we have 2 dogs, and this card idea, this is just a really quick card. One of my sons goes to camp every summer, and I like to send him fun cards. So this is a card I'm going to be sending to him next summer. So you'll see as I keep progressing through this card, you'll see how cute it's going to be for him. So now I have these little paw print dies, and I'm just taking a regular blending brush and making them a little darker. Now I'm going to come in with that shader brush 2+ with an even darker ink, and I'm just shading the left lower corner of all of these little paw prints or paws. And I'm going to come in with a second layer. So once I do it first, I'm going to come in with a second layer because I have found that a lot of times I do something and I think I'm done, and then the ink dries back because ink always goes on darker, right? And then sometimes it dries and you wish you had done another layer. So I did do a second layer. Now I'm going to glue my paws on. I did add a white paw behind it just to give it a little bit of lift off my card base. And you can see the dimension that these paws already have. And by the way, this paw set has several other elements where you can create stripes. If you have cats that have stripes, the die set just has so many fun little unique shapes. I didn't use them because, again, I was just making a quick card, and you can go to the website and see some of the fun cards that some of the designers made. All right, so the front of my card is blue, right? So that represents my dog Marvel, the boy dog of the family, and to be honest, the most mischievous dog, but the cutest dog. He pretty much rules the house. Here I realized that I had cut out some white paw prints that I I put black marker around the edges because I was going to glue those down first and I forgot. All right, here are two new stamp sets. There's the Pet Thoughts on the right and then the Cattitude on the left. And this is just a small sampling of all of the cat products that are on the site now. But there are a lot of stamps in this set that work for a dog. Like, are you having a rough day? Who's a good girl? I miss my human. Happy bark day. And there are some thought bubbles, and there are some matching dies for that. And so these matching dies come separately or in a bundle. So I picked the I miss my human sentiment, and I'm going to use my A2 layers set to cut this out. And obviously these dies are too long for this sentiment, so I'll just do some partial die cutting, and I'm going to use this bigger die. Now, speaking of this A2 layer set, which I use all the time, you don't always see me using it. I use it a lot off camera. This is one of the items that's 40% off in this moving sale right now. So again, such a great time to get staples and some of the fun things that you've had your eye on. All right, so while I cut that out, so I've made my first cut, and then to do partial die cutting, I'm just going to move it down and put it where I want it, and then I'll tape that and run it through my die cutting machine again. Okay, so front of the card is all about Marvel, and the inside of the card is going to be all about Maggie. So here's the inside of the card. I just have a white piece of paper, and I have the gray piece of cardstock that I had cut out one of those paws, and now I'm using it as a stencil, and I'm using that shader brush. I can't remember if this is the 1 or the 3, and I'm just using it as a stencil with some pink ink. And again, this is the inside of the card, so it doesn't have to be beautiful. I don't usually do much on the inside of my cards, to be honest, but I thought this would be really cute. And again, this is going to my son, and it's going to be a card from his dogs. So Maggie is the girl, and she is so sweet. So sweet. But she does, get caught up in Marvel's antics. So there's the stamp that I chose for the inside of the card. I thought that was really cute. And here is the outside all finished. And I think my son is going to crack up when he gets this card. All right, so that is it for me today. Again, I am just starting to play with these brushes, so you'll see me using them more and more in my future videos. Definitely take a look down below. I'll have links to all these products as well as a link to that moving sale. And I appreciate you being with me today. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.